Welcome back to the Lou Perez Podcast. My name is Lou Perez, and I'm happy to report that right now you can order my book. That's right, I wrote a book. It's called That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, on the death and rebirth of comedy. Follow the link in the description or head over to Amazon and search for Lou Perez, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. If you want other options on how you can buy my book, please sign up for my newsletter at thelouperez.com. You could also join my community at thelouperez.locals.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. And if you could leave a 5-star review, that would be amazing. Whether you're a long-time listener or a first-time, 5-star reviews are lovely. If you're looking for other ways you can support me, you can do so by supporting my sponsors. If you're into CBD products, please check out palomaverdecbd.com. Use promo code LOU to get 25% off purchases over $75. And if you like cold brew, check out Black Organic Cold Brew at www.blvckbrew.com and use promo code LOU for free shipping. All right, let's go. I am very excited for my next guest. She's an old friend, and I mean old friend in that we've known each other for a while. Not that she's an older friend or anything like that. She is a fantastic writer and author, and I own 2 of her books. The first one that I have of hers is Iris Has Free Time, and this one I'm lucky to have my hands on right now is her newest book. It's called Droll Tales, and here she is, Iris Smyles.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
You have me on the show, Mr. Perez.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time to be on it. So we're this is really exciting. Is the book out yet? The new book, Droll Tales?
Well, it was supposed to be, but there's a paper shortage. I'm told, so the publication date was pushed to July 5th. So there are, little secret copies being passed around illegally.
Well, I figured that's why I have mine. It's made out of paper. So.
Yeah, but it's not legal until July 5th. So some stores are selling it illegally, and you might see some people selling it out of the trunk of their car. Just don't tell on them because it's a hot item.
Ron, it is so wild when you think about it. The idea that there is a paper shortage and it's impacting books. It's funny because I have so many books, but I never actually think of them as paper. I always think of them as sort of like a resource that'll just always that you could just always make more of.
Yeah. I must say I was very surprised about the paper shortage, but now it seems there's there's everything's short.
Right.
There's a shortage of everything, so it's just slightly alarming. A friend of mine told me the other day, well, I had read about it, but I guess I'm just reading so many terrible things every day that I don't really log them anymore. And she said that she was stockpiling tampons because of the tampon shortage.
I got to get in on that. I got to start hoarding tampons.
Well, you should. I mean, actually, and the other day, this man who is handy, who I call the handyman, but every time I refer to him as the handyman, my friend Frederick, whom you know, Frederick Cotton, starts talking as if I'm about to make a porn video or something. He's like, oh, the handyman. But then if I refer to him by his name, he says, who's that? And I say the handyman. So now I just say the handyman. Anyway, the point is, the handyman was telling me the other day as he was helping install something, if you know what I mean. He was telling me, oh, all these shortages, there's a tampon shortage and a baby formula shortage. And wouldn't you know, it's all stuff that affects women. And that just gets on my last nerve. And it seems like it's not an accident that it's the stuff for women. So he was really, I guess, appealing to my feminist side, I think, or maybe just really he's not with me, he's out marching, and that's it.
Well, I mean, the fact that he's on his last nerve, there's a shortage of nerves right now going around. So that's yet another thing to add to the list. Well, with the book, have you done an audiobook yet?
Well, I haven't, but I believe there will be a number of actors. I won't be doing the audio. An audiobook will be released, but they have a little cast of actors reading it because there's a number of different narrators in this book.
Okay, that's cool. Iris Has Free Time. Was that ever an audiobook as well?
It was not. I someone wanted to buy the rights for that as an audiobook, but they didn't want me to read it, and also they didn't have a connection. I wanted Christopher Walken to read it, if anyone but me was going to read it, and so I turned down the deal. It was Audible had made the offer, and I turned down the deal, and I thought one day I will cross paths with Christopher Walken, and I will say I've got a project for you. It hasn't happened yet, so I am thinking of maybe releasing the audio. Unless you know someone who might know someone who can, because I feel like you might really like the project.
Well, I'm wondering how long it would take Christopher Walken to do the audio version, because of his cadence and just how he speaks normally. I'm wondering if that's adding just hours and hours and hours to the recording session.
If that's what it takes. I mean, I think people read too quickly. When people brag about speed, how quickly they read, it's absurd. Speed reading literature in the same way it would be absurd to put an opera on fast forward and say you had to sit through the whole thing. I got done with it in 5 minutes. It has, literature has a tempo in the same way that music does. But there is an audiobook of my second book, Dating Tips for the Unemployed.
Sweet.
Yes, by some woman who is not me is doing the audio.
I just started listening to audiobooks because I've been driving more, and I haven't done literature though. I don't think I could listen to a novel or something like that. The book I read, the book I listened to, it was nonfiction, and it took a while to just get used to the guy who was reading it, because he would read, I don't know, what would a sentence be like? In 1985, there was a man who came to town, and he had 3, but it was like, it took a long time for me to get used to it. But after a while, like when you come back to somebody after like listening to them for 5 hours, you feel like you're coming back to a friend. They're no longer a stranger. They're like your handyman in a way.
Right. Well, I was wondering about that voiceover style of voice. Is that because it seems distinctive to audiobooks, the way that they read, and it's sort of not natural. And I don't, does that improve the experience? I don't know. I also only started listening to my first audiobook during the lockdown, because I just thought I need to, go for I can't just be, I was looking too much, too many screens, too much reading. I wanted, but similarly, I would also not read for me, if I'm going to, for literature, I prefer to read. I was listening to this Sean Carroll book, the physicist. I forget which one it wasn't The Particle at the End of the Universe. It was the one that's come since, but I can't remember. I also can't retain anything anymore, so in one ear and out the, whatever that other, what was I saying? No.
Oh, we were talking about audiobooks, and I wonder if there is a science behind what works for an audiobook. Like, I would imagine that there are people who, are great, spoken word people or performers, but they might not necessarily be able to hold someone's attention for like hours upon hours. It's something that I'm thinking about, because I'm going to be doing an audio version of my book.
I was going to ask you about that. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I'm getting Christopher Walken to do it. So I'm going to have to just step up and do it.
When is that coming out? In the fall, is that right?
So the release date is set September 5th or 6th, but I brought it up with my publisher. hearing about, I think you may have told me. Yeah, that's right. You told me about the shortage a little while back when we were trying to figure out a date that we could do this episode, and I brought it up, and I was like, I've been just waiting for this thing to get out, to come out, and one of the reasons why is because it's about comedy, and like, in the months after I turned it in, just comedians have been dropping dead. So you have Norm Macdonald and Louis Anderson and Gilbert Godfrey and Bob Saget. I really want to get it out before another major comedian dies. So, yeah. And that was it. That was our episode.
I'm just trying to follow that. I mean, I did have that. I had the thought when this war broke out,
Which one?
And anyway, and I thought, I just hope my book comes out before we're vaporized. If we get bombed,
right?
I just want my book to come out first. I made that sort of little prayer. Also, I was thinking about if I should try and build a bomb shelter instead of trying to build a library. And I want to build some shelves.
Yeah.
So I looked into the price of both. But I don't even know by the time I raise the money, because I have to save the money first to build either one of those things. It might be too late anyway.
Yeah.
For the bomb shelter.
Well, there are people who they make bomb shelters with abandoned school buses, like old school buses. They'll dig a ditch, like a really deep hole, then put the school bus in, and then that'll be like, I guess your outer layer, and then I don't know what you have to put on top. Was it concrete? Is that what's good to stop radiation?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I have to hire someone.
The handyman. Is there any chance this handyman guy knows anything about bomb shelters? Because it seems like he's really putting the moves on.
He does know a lot of things. I haven't asked him about the bomb shelter. I mean, I'll have to do a little more research, but my funds are limited. Even if I could get my hands on a school bus, it doesn't sound that cheap. Budget option. It's still like I'm still probably going to be vaporized before I build a bomb shelter.
Yeah, man. Now that you bring that up, I'm kind of wondering, if vaporization would that be the word?
Vaporized if you're lucky and it goes quickly. Otherwise, it's like your skin will melt off.
Yeah, or you're getting the vapors. Right. I'd prefer that to just get the vapors like I'm an old lady in a Southern church. But no, you bring that up and it's making me think like, what would I want like my last moments to be or where I would want them to be. So I mean, I definitely want to be, holding my children, but
There's more than one now?
2. Yeah, I got 2.
When did you do the other one?
When did I do the other one? When did we conceive that dude? I don't know. I'm trying to do the math. He just turned 8 months. The youngest is 8 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what is his name?
His name is Matteo. And the oldest is Andreas. So Andreas and Matteo. Dre and Teo, where we're trying to get like a boy band kind of thing going. K-pop.
That sounds very good. Are they going to write their own music or
or
are they going to do covers?
I think right now they're going to do covers. Andreas is very into the soundtrack for Cars and the soundtrack for Planes. If you're not familiar with Cars, that's the Lightning McQueen cartoon. Paul Newman had a role in it, and was it Owen Wilson? Owen Wilson voices McQueen, and then Planes is a really shitty version of Cars, except with airplanes, and I think the main voice is Dane Cook in that.
These are cartoons?
These are cartoons. These are movies. There are multiple movies. I think there were 3 Cars movies, and then I think 2 Planes movies. And The soundtrack for Cars, there's a version of Life is a Highway. Then there's a Sheryl Crow song. So that comes on, and then my Andreas sings. There's a part where that goes, woo! And then he does that. And then in Planes, Planes that they came out in like 2010, 2011. So if you can go back in time and just imagine, what kind of rock music was big at that time, that's kind of with a soundtrack that's happening. And he needs to hear that. So yeah, I'm thinking covers at first.
Okay.
Long answer to a question. Yeah, I think he's going to be doing covers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me know when they get the group together and stuff. I'd like to go to a show.
Okay. Yeah, I think right now they're finding themselves as artists. Matteo's like still putting stuff in his mouth. He's trying to test the waters and all that. So
he's finding his voice.
Do you remember what you were like as a kid?
Well, at what age?
Right. Well, yeah. Earliest memory. Do you have an earliest memory? I have one, but.
Well, I'm not sure, because when I was little, I told my parents that I remembered things, and they were like, "No, you don't." So now I don't remember it because I just assumed that I was wrong about that. So earliest memory, I don't know what. It doesn't go in order. I don't know. I guess I remember sort of napping in nursery school. I really didn't like that.
Yeah.
I really didn't like when adults took my hands during Baby Hands Up and raised them during that song Baby Hands Up.
I think so.
It was like a pre-Macarena thing. Hands up, baby, hands up.
Hands up. Give me your heart, baby. Give me your heart, baby. Yeah.
And my whole family, every time I'd go to my family in Greece, when we'd go to Greece, and they'd put the song on for all of us to dance. They'd also put the duck song on, which was fine, and I liked it better because then they would target me because I was the youngest and put my hands up, and I was like, I'm a sophisticated woman. Why can't you see that? It's the same thing now. I feel like, people really condescend to me. They don't understand. They're still raising my hands during Baby Hands Up. You're going to be on my deathbed, and they're going to be raising my hands during Baby Hands Up. Man. Metaphorically,
yeah, that's right. I think the earliest memory that I have, I don't know how old I was, but I'm lying in my parents' bed, and I'm like half awake, half asleep, and I see floating above me a bottle with orange juice, and I go to reach it and grab it, and I can't grab it because it's a dream. So the bottle is a dream, and yeah.
You were hallucinating orange juice, or you were this is a baby dream?
This is a baby dream. I think I was half. I think I was like, what's the line from J. Alfred Prufrock?
Is a dream you had as a baby of orange juice.
Isn't that weird?
You were thwarted.
Yeah. Like what's the T.S. Eliot's like a patient etherized on a table. Like I was sort of awake, halfway between awake and sleeping. So, and then the other memory I have, it was in pre-K, and that's when I told like a big lie. I was like the first lie that I can remember telling, and I told my teacher about this really cool toy I had, where I could you could take it and it could become a gun or it could become a rocket ship, and I'm telling this.
Just listening to her, I'm just getting a sinking feeling.
Sad, right?
So, poor thing. Was it horrible because you realized as you were telling it that she wasn't buying it?
I think I only realized that now. Like I was wondering if maybe as a kid,
and she's like, you lying little bastard,
you little piece of shit.
I knew it.
You lied to me just like all the men in my life. Another man lying to me, and then she just quit teaching pre-K.
You destroyed her career.
Yeah, I destroyed that woman. So, man. So, Droll tales. I have a confession. I think the word droll is one of those words that I pretend to know what it means, but I don't really know what it is. I like that title a lot. But what does droll mean? Let me see if I got it right.
Well, it means amusing, but in a sort of funny, but in an unusual way.
Got it.
In an unexpected or unusual way.
Nice. How long have you been working on this one?
Well, quite a long time. I mean, some of the stories in there, I started. How old am I? 20 years ago.
Oh wow!
Some of them I finished this past fall. So yeah, I've been working on it a long time, I guess, is the answer. But that's how I like to write, to revise and revise and revise. And by that, I don't mean I'm not changing small things, but it often changes form so that what I end up with is often extremely different from what I started with. I mean, there's one story in there where the only thing left of the original story is a guy goes to the dentist. Mm-hmm. Oh, and another thing where someone refers to having been to the theater earlier, and the original story was all about being at the theater. Now it's just like they just refer to being at the theater. So it really changes a lot as I go through.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so interesting when you put it that way, because I've been since, I mean, even before we met each other, I was doing comedy, and for those of you who maybe we should have introduced this earlier, but Iris and I went to graduate school together, so we were in an MFA program at City College, and Iris is definitely one of those peers that is just incredibly talented and such a great just a great writer and great insight and hilarious. And before I met Iris, I was doing comedy. So I was doing sketch comedy and maybe a little bit of stand-up. Maybe stand-up came later. So I was sort of navigating these two worlds of wanting to write creative fiction, but then also doing comedy. And for a lot of like sketches and stuff like that, it's sort of like you write it and you do drafts, but it's sort of, they're kind of done once they're performed, or you record them and you put them out there. So the idea of having, some stories that are like, upwards of 20 years old that have been developing and all that, it's very different than I think a lot of people are used to when they're doing creative stuff, especially now.
I've never written a sketch before, so that sounds like a whole different thing. I don't know. I know that you were also at that time writing the pornography.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
The erotica.
The erotica. That's right. I started the MFA program, and I was working during the day writing erotic fiction. And I was
very impressed by you because of all these things, but also the erotica. I was like, wow, he's a published author. Get a load of this guy. Normal. Don't make a fool of yourself, Smyles. Did I or did I sort of play it down and?
No, you played it down, but then I asked you to dance that one night, and I said, baby hands up, and you were just not having it. You're like, here we go again.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that was sort of, because I remember.
You don't have any erotica that you've been revising for 20 years, do you?
for 20 years. Oh my God. Actually, I would love to write an erotic novel, and I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I don't have any time, so it would have to be something where I don't know, where there's maybe money involved, where someone pays me to write it. But I don't know who the hell would pay me to write an erotic novel.
Yeah, there's no market for something like 50 Shades of Grey or anything.
Right. Yeah.
If only people were interested in sex.
If only.
Then you could follow your vision.
Did you ever read that? I never read that book.
No, I did not. Nor did I see the movie, but I did go on a date last year I was going out with this guy, and he said after dinner, we were at his house, and he said, "Want to watch 50 Shades of Grey?" And I said, "No." And I thought that was very, very bizarre. So I suggested we watch Harold and Maude.
Mm.
And then we did. And then I was like, wow, it's really bizarre that I suggested this. He's going to think I'm such a weirdo. But then later on, I asked him why he suggested 50 Shades of Grey, because it was just so strange to me. And he's like, I don't know, heard it was sexy. And I guess he was trying to just like get me sexed up and move or something. And then I'm like, here, Harold and Maude, and just foiled his plan. I didn't mean to, but anyway, I think I would have been really turned off. I don't know. The idea of watching, I feel embarrassed just thinking about watching 50 Shades of Grey or something like that, or any kind of romantic or sexual movie with another person. It's weird.
Well, it's weird to be like, well, for him to think this is what, is going to get both of us in the mood, a movie that I've never, seen before, as opposed to just, coming out and just putting on like, so what kind of porn are you into? And then, finding a scene or something.
He put on Kenny G.
What?
He put on, well, I thought you were going to say versus putting on Kenny G. Well, I thought like putting on music and then coming towards me with both hands, like that's, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know. No one has ever approached me with the let's watch an erotic movie.
Right.
Things keep getting worse. Sorry.
No.
Going to a dark place.
Well, it's been a while since I've been with my wife. We started dating when I was like, I think we're going on 8 or 9 years together, exclusively, going steady. So I don't really know what dating is like now, or what people necessarily are, what, well, I guess everybody's different as far as like what turns people on, but I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I don't really date. Every once in a while I relent and give in to a date, and then that's my fill for the rest of it, for the rest of the 2 years. It's like eating at Denny's, where you're just like, it's been a while, you're hungry, I'll stop there, and then you eat there and you're like, ooh, that's why I never eat at Denny's. I'm not going to eat there ever again. And then a few years pass and you're in Georgia trying to drive to Florida and there's a Denny's. It's like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if you like Denny's.
That was my favorite restaurant up until you ruined it.
Perkins.
What's that? Is that a Southern?
It was another. I don't know if they're still in, but yeah, Perkins was a big Southern chain, very much like Denny's. It's disgusting.
Wow. I've grown fond of places like McDonald's. Like there was a time when we first moved to our house, and we're kind of away from a little ways away from civilization. Well, if you define civilization as like a McDonald's. So there was a time where my wife was like, you just drove a half hour to go to McDonald's and to come, come back. Like you just spent an hour of your life to go get McDonald's. But I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the Big Mac and nuggets. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to me.
I understand. When I remember, I haven't eaten. Well, actually, I had McDonald's once last year for the first time in a long time. But when I was in college, I remember there was a terrible rainstorm, and I splurged for a cab to get to McDonald's because they had the dollar menu. So I spent money on a cab to get that deal.
and now you're like, how much was that cab? Like, did it really? Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to? Did you go to NYU as an undergrad?
Yes, I did.
Well, wait. Now it's coming back. So you went to NYU, and then you used to teach too, right?
Yes, I went to NYU to Tisch as an undergraduate to study dramatics. I wanted to be an actress. Then I transferred to Gallatin to have more academics. but stay flaky.
I didn't know you went to Gallatin. I went to Gallatin.
I know. God, you don't remember our conversations at all. I mean, I was recording everything, of course. Yeah. I had the handyman transcribe it for me just this afternoon. Bring up my notes before I do this podcast. So I'm looking at it right now. But yes, and then I used to be a teacher. I taught middle school for a little while in the city. And then I met you in graduate school, which normally I don't. I like to keep that under wraps that I attended graduate school. Because I feel, so and then we were both teaching at City College. We were both doing our.
Do you remember who was the adjunct? No, we were adjuncts. Who was the professor? The guy who used to show up like 40 minutes late. He was teaching a humanities lecture.
Yes, I don't remember because I did that. I think I taught that class a few times. I can't remember his name. I've lost all my memories.
This was, you hear a lot of, stories about professors with tenure who, aren't doing the best job. This guy, I think class was at maybe 9 a.m. It might have been even earlier than that. Say class was at 9 a.m. There were days where this guy would show up at 9:45 and turn to the class of freshmen. And this was a course, it was like great books or something like that. Turn to the class of freshmen and say, any questions? Like there was no actual, teaching going on, no lecturing going on. It's awful. And then I found out later he had brain cancer. So I don't know if he had brain cancer, like the kind of brain cancer that makes you a lazy asshole.
Jeez. I don't know if we were. I don't remember that experience. I think maybe you were working with a different professor. There was one semester where I worked, with a professor, and then a couple of others where they entrusted me with my own class, which was even worse. And one of my techniques, because I had to give them all these classics, which I had only just barely read. I mean, as an undergraduate, maybe some of them I pretended to read. And then since I'm going to teach it, I'm like, well, I better learn a little bit about Dante if I'm going to be teaching it.
Right.
But then they would ask me questions. I'm like, how should I know? So I had this, I call it defensive teaching. Like driving, I had these strategies when they would ask me questions about something, about the Inferno or the Odyssey. I would just say, that's a good question. That's a good topic for discussion. Let's open this for discussion. And I did the same thing when I was teaching middle school with spelling. I started the year, I'm dyslexic, so I began the year by saying, every once in a while, I'm going to write a spelling I'm going to incorporate a spelling mistake in your homework or on the board, and whoever catches it gets extra credit. So every time one of those smart ass kids would be like, "It's Smyles," I'm like, very astute. Well done. Extra points for you. +5.
Did any of them ever try to spell check your name? So like Smyles, not with a Y, it's with an I.
No, they didn't do that. And by the way, speaking of my mind deteriorating, I was signing books the other day, and I didn't spell my name wrong, but I'd lost the ability to write my first name and I wrote my last name twice. And then I guess I was nervous or something, so I had to cross, because I was talking to a handsome suitor, so I had to cross the name out and then really concentrate on writing my first name. I think I got it. Got some squiggles in there.
Well, how did that come about? Do people come up to you to sign books, or do you do them beforehand?
And recognized in the streets, they say, "Excuse me, are you famous author Iris Smyles?" And I say, "Please call me Miss Smyles." I was I had a sort of a book launch this Saturday, an event out in Sag Harbor called the Droll Ball. You see, the launch was scheduled before the publication date was pushed back. For my launch, I held a séance during which I appeared live with the spirit of Marcel Proust, and we talked about my work and my process. Because if you So Proust was helping me launch my book. I hired a psychic medium, so it was legit. It's not
was it the Long Island medium? Because there was one.
I did write to her because I thought, well, that would be nice since I'm a Long Island girl. But no, I ended up going using a different medium, and it was very interesting. I prepared some questions because Proust is one of my favorite writers. And if you're going to, you know how you get nervous if you're meeting,
Right.
a hero. So I didn't want to blow it. But it went well. It went nice. But anyway, and so in that situation, I ended up signing some books.
Nice. I know you had an event in the city. I think like it was a Tuesday night. I wasn't able to make it. I wasn't able to come down. My apologies.
I noticed in the throngs. I was like, "Where's Lou?" There's like 300 people there, but I kept searching and searching and searching. Have you seen her? Have you seen Lou?
Has anyone been in touch with him? Is he okay? Does he have his phone? Can you text him or something?
Yeah, I almost sent everyone home because I was like, "What's the point if Mr. Perez isn't here?" I filtered on after some coaxing.
Yeah. So Sag Harbor, are you from Suffolk County originally?
Yes, the middle of the island, Dix Hills, where John Coltrane went to die, and LL Cool J, sprung up.
I have a little anecdote about LL Cool J. So I went to St. Mary's High School in Manhasset, Long Island, and there was a TGI Fridays, which was like a frequent haunt for us. That's where we go. I'd always order a buffalo wings and a Caesar salad.
Manhasset, that's so fancy. Why did I think you were from?
Oh, I'm not from Manhasset. I'm from Little Neck. I went to high school. I just went to high school in Manhasset.
Oh.
Yeah. So one day at TGI Fridays, and I was there with my friend from high school, Kevin McCabe. We were eating, and who's over in the booth across the way but LL Cool J. And we went over to say hi, and he was very nice about us saying hi. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, do you work out?" And he laughed, and he's like, "Yeah, a little bit," because he was just that was like him in definitely his heyday, being jacked. So that's my LL Cool J.
I have one of his workout books, LL Cool J 360. It's a total lifestyle and workout plan. He gives you like inspiring tips for just like life advice, nutrition, and different squat techniques.
He's is there a chapter on licking your lips? Because he does that a lot.
I should go back and review. It's a while since I've read it.
Yeah. Jamie, we're all over the place, but Jamie Foxx, the incredible actor, musician, comedian, he was in a movie with LL Cool J. I think it was not the Longest Yard, but oh my God, I forget what it. How am I forgetting it? Al Pacino was in it, and he and LL didn't get along, I guess, on set, and he said I think he said like at one point LL was like, "Come on, let's go," as if it was like a real game, as if they were playing like a real game. So I guess he got really into the role, and then they had a fight. And I don't know if he punched Jamie Foxx or smacked him or something.
I don't think LL would ever do something like that unless this man deserved it.
That he may have. We don't know. We don't know what was going on in the locker room. There's a lot of he said. But man, it's so funny, like how much we have common as far as our paths, so close to Long Island, NYU.
Yes.
Look at that.
And then City College.
Do you said that you don't like people or people knowing that or talking about going to graduate school? Yeah. What is it? Is it like a less romantic, sort of idea of being an author? Like the idea of like, oh, you've had some training or.
Well, I don't think, I don't keep it a secret. I do think, I notice it's become commonplace that in people's, in authors' bios, they all say where they got their writing degree from, as if you have to have a writing degree. And now it's gotten even worse. Not only do they refer to their MFA, they say she got her MFA, as if it's like a certification required, like a dental school, and so she is now licensed to practice fiction. And so I don't think that it's fine. There's nothing, there's nothing wrong with it. For me, it's just that the reason I went to graduate school really is just because I couldn't kind of pull myself together to, so I guess I was sort of buying time and legitimacy to sort of, figure myself out more, or delay certain aspects of adulthood. It was like a halfway house for kids who just don't want to grow up. That's how it was for me. But I do feel that there's this reliance on, and a lot of the graduate schools, the institutionalization of art has made it so it's turned, and even the way that it's talked about, that people talk about it as writing as a craft rather than an art. A craftsman is different from an artist, and there is there are some techniques you can learn, but it's not basket weaving, although so much contemporary fiction does read like basket weaving, like effective craftsmanship without much artistry. So yes, so that's what I think about that. My little rant. Actually, though, it could have been much longer. I told myself, turn it down, Iris. Yeah.
Well, I think I was lucky. You talk about kind of like graduate school as a way to sort of put off adulthood, and fortunately, the school that we went to wasn't that expensive. So it's sort of, we were able to put off adulthood without being saddled with just an insane amount of debt. And I forget where else I applied, but I think City College was the only graduate program I got into. I didn't get into Columbia. I didn't get into NYU. And looking back, it's like, oh my, thank God, because the prospect of, spending at that time, I think upwards of 60 to 80 grand to study writing. Man, that just seemed like.
And with that, I think with those expensive programs too, then there's a lot of pressure to conform to, the going standard, sort of the house style or whatever the professor, because you want to turn, to monetize it. There's a greater need. So there's less room for exploration. So I sort of, I liked our ragtag school.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun and interesting and learning. We both had the chance to teach. I met my closest friend and mentor there, Frederick Tutton, the great author of The Bar at Twilight, which everyone should read. You should get his new book.
Is that the new one?
Yeah, it just came out last month to great acclaim. It's a beautiful collection of short stories. So as soon as you're done reading Droll Tales, go out and get that, or buy them at the same time. But I met him there, and he was a really, what was great about him is that I think you would agree, he never pressed any students to adopt a particular style. He's had many students who have gone on to great success, and they all write in completely different ways. And he really had a great way of sort of seeing what you're doing and encouraging you towards that and helping you towards that without interfering and saying, no, write this way because that's what I prefer. And so he was just a great, just really inspiring. Certainly he really helped me to take myself seriously. And not, like many other people, like, well, when you're done with that writing stuff, then you can get a real job and just teach full time.
Yeah. I had, I think I had 2 workshops with Fred Tutton, and then 2 with Mark Mirsky, and Yeah, no, I think you really nailed it. Like there are times when I look back and I'm like, oh man, there were really great writers and a really great hang too with a lot of people in our program. And it was one of those schools like, unlike Columbia or NYU or these other places where you would have to be able to shell out that much money to study and then also take time away from if you had a day job. Like I don't know if too many people could actually go full time to those programs, but in our program we had people who had other careers and stuff.
Yeah. Teacher, all sorts of people coming into it from all different places in life. So I thought I liked that. And it, did you say it was romantic, or did I just think that?
What? I said not the idea of being a writer without going to grad school. It's like a romantic idea of the writer.
I think you said it was a great hang. That's what I was thinking. And then I was thinking, I had memories of us when we were just some of us. And I remember one day walking with you after one of the last workshops. I think it was Frederick's workshop, and it was held at Carla Garrick. Had held it at her house so we could have a little celebration for the class. And we walked home together and had one of these things that I used to love so much about New York, just these kind of long rambling walks and talks where you're just kind of talking about nothing and just laughing. And that always, I feel like that's kind of the romance of New York City and being young. And I sort of, actually, there's a story in this book that I was thinking of that experience that I've had on a few occasions with a few people, those kinds of just walks where you're just kind of cracking jokes and it just feels a bit, charmed. The sun is out and you just feel the city is yours. I don't know. I mean, what was your experience of New York? Did you have that feeling of New York, or were you just like, God, I wish I was home already? Who is this broad?
No, you're giving me chills. I totally. It's been a very long time since I've had those feelings, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And then also the moments too where it's like, I should probably get back home and go to sleep, but I should probably stay out and not go to sleep because it's so perfect, what's happening.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for transporting me there, Iris. I gotta find that story in Droll Tales. I God, what was I was 25 when I started the program, so it's like 15 years ago. It's a long time. Well,
you were 25. That's funny because I remember thinking of you as like a real youngster, but I was 26.
Well, I think that was before I could grow a beard. I don't think I could grow a beard at that time. I think the most I could grow was like a goatee.
Yeah, and you were small. You hadn't grown to your full height yet.
That's right. I was going to get there one day. You wait and see.
Look at you now. You've got all this hair.
All this hair.
You got 2 kids.
2 kids, all this hair. People actually point out, like, I mean, my hairline has gone back a little bit, but it's funny, doing comedy and commentary and all that online. Like, how many times people will, like, go after my looks and be like, and think that calling out the fact that I have a big forehead is somehow going to, disturb me or, ruin my day. It's like, yeah, I got a big noggin and it just keeps getting bigger and wider. And there's not much I can do about it. But I remember there was a time when, the hairline was a little closer to the eyebrows, it happened. So we were there.
They come at you. I mean, I haven't noticed that. I think you just look, distinguished and handsome. I mean, otherwise, you got to have some forehead.
You got to.
I know what you mean. I used to have this. Well, I might still. I hope that they're not watching or listening. this kind of, I wouldn't call them a stalker, but like a stalker light. They were sending me magazine subscriptions, like a lot of them, and to bad magazines.
Oh.
So it was nothing that they were very careful not to send me something that I would actually want to read. There was no like New York Review of Books. It was like Guns and Ammo, House and Garden, just weird stuff. But here's the thing, they were sending it to me, but they would, instead of my name, they would have an insult, but they had looked up my address. It's pretty creepy, but they'd found my address, and they'd followed me to 2 homes with this, and they would write, by filling out those cards, I guess. And so then you would just get the magazine and get billed for it. And they would just come up with all these names, like 70, 80, 90 different names. And they were like, Iris, big nose. Iris can't write. Iris, big feet. Flat ass Smyles.
Flat ass Smyles. That is.
Also, I mean, there was Iris is old. Iris is so old. Like, what's creepy is this person spent, to handwrite those things, spent a lot of unhinged hours thinking about how to get at me. I shouldn't have said that probably, because if they're watching this, don't. Thank you. That's plenty.
Did you never found out the identity of the person?
No. Yeah. But it was those kinds of like those kinds of insults to my, to my nose. But I mean, I don't think saying someone has a big nose is an insult. It's just an observation. But it is insulting when people suggest it's an insult. Sometimes I refer to myself as I'll describe myself as having a big nose, and some friends will rush to say, "Oh no, it's beautiful." And I said, "Of course it is, but I said it was big. I didn't say it wasn't precious." Like,
right?
Why are you introducing this negativity?
Yeah. Yeah, I had an experience where it was on Twitter, and I guess I was, in a Twitter argument with a woman, and she posted a picture of me and said basically like you're one to talk about your looks, and I had commented on a particular mask that she had been wearing, so I wasn't commenting on her looks, and then I responded by saying, calling her like a Michigan 4 or something like that. And to which she responded by calling me a misogynist. And I had I guess a follower, a fan of mine who pointed out, he's like, wait a minute, you attack his looks, and then he turns it around and attacks your looks, and then you call him a misogynist. And it's like, I mean, if you want to go that route, of goofing on somebody's looks, then you got to be able to take it, I think.
Yeah, that's terrible. What was this? I understand. So this one time, I had an essay in the Times about, like, a funny essay about not calling people back. Before that was not calling people, but only texting. Before that was commonplace. Now it's like an act of terrorism if you call someone, which is why I do it. Well, I just need to connect. But anyway, so I wrote this essay, and this woman found my email and reached out to me, and she said, thank God I'd never have a friend like you. I'd never want to have a friend like you. It was this nasty thing, just like this mean little attack. I don't know why she took it personally. It was like a funny little essay about just kind of avoiding people for whatever reason. And so I wrote back to her, and I said just something like sincere about, thanks for hurting my feelings. And then she instantly sort of like for reaching out in order to just like give me this little bit of poison. And then she instantly like apologized
Wow.
And it seemed to feel really bad, which then made me feel bad. I want to say that we became great friends after that, but it ended there. But
Yeah, you didn't want her as a friend.
I think it was a strange impulse. Maybe this impulse, like to what you're saying, I think sometimes people just sort of, they throw tomatoes and they don't really recognize the humanity of that like person who they see as like up on a platform for that moment. So it sort of gives them license to behave in this really inappropriate way. I mean, would that woman in real life, if she were talking with you and you had said something that she disagrees with, would she have said like, well, you're ugly?
Right.
Maybe, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think there's definitely part of it, not being able to recognize the humanity on the person on the other side of the screen. But I also think that part of it is there's this fantasy of being able to hurt or to, destroy someone else without any repercussions. So, or kind of like I'm 40 and I still have like these fantasies of like fight fantasies where I'm going to take that guy and ragdoll him and throw him around and he won't be able to punch me or anything like that. And it's like, that's a fantasy, Lou. There's no way. And it's not like a particular guy or anything like that, but it's like, it's a fantasy that you have where you are somehow going to fight somebody, whether it's physically or verbally, and they're not going to be able to respond or to fight back. And the reality is it's like, no, people oftentimes fight back, especially if somebody's used to it.
I think, yeah. And I think even there's that idea of like having the last word, right?
Right.
There is no, like, the only people who get the last word are in like sitcoms because they say it and then the audience cheers and then the script ends and the person just like walks away ashamed. But in reality, whomever you've said, like in real life, if you've said something to someone who, by the way, deserves it, they're going to come back with something just like mean and off, and you will just be tumbling with them for a long time. And really you never, I think what I've learned is you just sort of, you can't win. You can only cut your losses when you get involved in this kind of thing. And also, I mean, I think if you're telling someone off who really deserves it, they're definitely not going to give you the satisfaction of it. Probably the only person who would give you the last word is someone who doesn't deserve it because they're so wounded by what you've said, in which case now you sit with that guilt. I hope.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, I think you really hit it. You really nailed it. So you have, so obviously you've had, examples of people who've come at you through various weird ways, like sending you guns and ammo magazine. What's it been like as far as, your fans who enjoy your work? What's that relationship or relationships like? Like, how do you handle that?
Well, for me, I seem to have skipped straight to the I'm not famous, but I've skipped straight to the perils of fame, which is having a stalker or getting hate mail. No, that's not totally true. I had one time I was recognized by a woman in the street in New York, of course, while I was sitting on the side of the road. I was waiting for the bus, and I was like, I just can't stand. So I sit down like a savage, sitting on the sidewalk, waiting for the jitney. And this woman walks by, and then she walks back, and she says, "Oh my God, are you Irish Smyles?" I'm like, I actually I thought it was like a candid camera thing or just some weird practical joke. She was my one fan. And she had found me and she recognized me. She even, she had apparently started following me on Instagram and even recognized my stuffed animals, which I travel with, Elephantitis and Lucius. She's like, "Oh my God, there's Elephantitis and Lucius." That's my loyal fan. I love her very much,
That's great.
because I think, well, personally, I don't know. I regard writing as a very personal thing. I felt very touched and connected to certain writers when growing up, and still now when I read a great book, I feel like, oh, I found I found a friend across time and space, and sort of I get along better with them than, Christine in the cafeteria or down the block who's mean today.
Mm-hmm.
So I do. So yeah, I mean, I write the books because I really my soul's in there. So if someone reads it and it means something to them, I feel like, oh, I found the person that I wanted to speak to. So that is a really, really positive experience. It just makes me feel a little less alone in the world, Friends are hard, friends are hard to come by. I'm not friends with this person. I just mean that sense of connection.
Sure.
And communication, so much of life is so much talking, but not that much real connecting.
Yeah. Well, Iris, you are a friend of mine, and I'm very proud of you. And I don't want to get choked up, but it's been a while since I've spoken with you. And thanks for bringing back, I don't know, you. For people who know you, you're a very special person and a great writer. And thank you for sharing your time with me tonight, and for sharing time back in the day on those long strolls through romantic New York City. And please, everybody, go out and get Droll Tales. Iris has free time, and all of her stuff. So thanks, Iris.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for listening. And again, please order my book, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, on the death and rebirth of comedy. Just follow the link in the description or head over to Amazon and search for Lou Perez, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. And please subscribe to my podcast. Leave a 5-star review. Why not? Sign up for my newsletter at thelouperez.com. And if you want other ways to support my work, you can join thelouperez.locals.com. And of course, be sure to support my sponsors, PalomaVerdeCBD.com. Use promo code Lou for 25% off purchases over $75, and Black Organic Cold Brew, BLVCKBREW.com. Use promo code Lou for free shipping. Thank you.